Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Now, if you're like, Johnny Mac, the theme sounds a little different today. What's going on? Well, on Tuesday morning, Johnny Mac's hard drive filled up, and he deleted a bunch of files and deleted one too many. You know what I'm saying? Because I had to go back to the original cut of the music theme, and now I have to go back in and find... Ooh, listen to what it's doing now. Let's listen. Yeah, we never get to that part, so I have to go back in and grab what's called a mix down and get the smaller parts. Although this is kind of fun. It is a Tuesday coming off July 4th weekend, and this is usually one of the toughest weeks of the year to do this program because there is no news, so I will talk slow. Or we can just jam to the band. All right, Ricky Gervais said, I was asked to come up with a new billboard for the London Underground as our last one was banned. This for his whiskey company. Ricky said, I thought I should do a little bit more market research before I waste company money and wondered, will this be too annoying for commuters? If so, I think I'll go with it. He then shared an image that said, win £1 million. That way you don't have to take the tube. Hey, nice job, Nikki Glaser. This from KSDK. Read slow, John. You don't have a lot of news today. Last week, when the air conditioning went out at an East St. Louis animal shelter during their heat wave, Gateway Pet Guardians sent out an urgent plea to the community to help Wednesday of last week. They posted, this is a crisis situation. Additionally, we're receiving a large number of calls about outdoor strays and heat distress who need a safe place to land. We need the community's help right now. Part of that community, St. Louis native Nikki Glaser. The shelter wrote on Instagram that Nikki saw our reel, reached out right away, and came by GPG as soon as she was back in town to scoop up a foster. Looks like Egbert is settling in just fine, cozy, content, and clearly in his comedy era. We are truly so grateful for all of you. Nice job, Nikki Glaser. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Back out tomorrow. Season 17, 8 episodes, and we get 2 episodes tomorrow, July 9th. They were doing some press. Glenn Howerton talked about how he almost left the show. Glenn and the gang were at the Paley Live 20th anniversary panel. Glenn thought about leaving before season 12. He told the creative team, look, I just don't want to wear out our welcome. I was worried that maybe we had sort of peaked or something. And I was just like, we've been doing this a long time. And I think I was anxious. I hadn't figured out yet how to stretch myself and be able to do other things that I wanted to do with my career outside of the show. I just hadn't figured out how to do that yet. I was aching to do other things. And so I was starting to feel a little boxed in, frankly. The rest of the cast said they didn't want the show to end, and he said, well, I can't stop you. And then seasons 13 and 14, I came back as an actor, but I wasn't in the writer's room. During that period, Glenn went on the Mindy Project and Fargo. He also did AP Bio, which is okay, but not, that's not the most radical departure acting-wise. Rob Mack said they just kept writing it and kept writing him in, and we're like, he's just going to eventually say he's coming back, and that's what happened. Know what I'm talking about because of the implication. If you're not a fan of the show, I don't even know how to begin to explain it. Short version, they've got a boat. Some women are on the boat. Glenn's character says that the women will hook up with them because of the implication, suggesting that something horrible could happen to the women. It's a sitcom. Don't write me any letters. Glenn said, I do remember that with the cruise ship scene with the young girl, where you actually had to see the implication. And actually, that was one I was like, please, guys, don't. There's just certain things as a human being. It's just tough to stop. I don't remember. I remember thinking the implication conversation that you guys wrote was super, super funny. Or maybe I was like worried about crossing a line or something. Caitlin Olsen McElhenney talked about her husband's name change to Rob Mack. She said, I'm legally Olsen McElhenney, but I go by Olsen, so I don't really have to change anything. We can call each other whatever we want. Whatever makes him happy makes me happy. Over the holiday weekend, it was the 30th annual Nantucket Film Festival. Nice work if you can get it. Ben Stiller and a group of, quote, comedy all-stars discussed their journeys. Ben Stiller shared that he personally was dead set against a comedy career because it's what his parents did. He didn't stick to that all too long. Eliza Schlesinger on this panel said she was working a desk job and asked her parents to help her buy a laptop for comedy writing. Mae Martin dropped out of high school to work at Second City and tell jokes on stage. Amber Ruffin's work led her to Chicago, then Amsterdam. Michael Ian Black also on that panel. Meanwhile, at Summerfest, Fortune Feimster was there. She said she was there to address what she calls America's fun deficit by encouraging people to connect with her and with each other. She told the Journal Sentinel, I'm just here to help people have fun. The one place you can help with that deficit is at a festival, right? Congratulations to Yakov Smirnoff. He's expecting his third child. Yakov Smirnoff is 74 years old. He already has 2 adult children, Natasha and Alexander, from a previous relationship. He told People, "There's something magical about starting over. At my age, most people are planning for retirement. Me, I'm buying diapers. Not for me, but for our future child." That's funny. Yes, my wife and I are having a baby. People kept asking me, "Yakov, how did this happen?" And I say, same way it always happens, just with more stretching and heating pads afterwards. In Soviet Union, comedy podcast filler fills you, or something like that. Maryland Rice Cup, you know her as Chloe on 24. You know who I'm talking about? Jack Bauer's assistant there? Yeah, the one that was always calling him. She's a comedian. Did you know that? She spoke to Entrepreneur Magazine and said when she's on the road, she does not want barbecue recommendations, especially when I'm traveling alone. I'm like, you think I'm going to go sit at a loud barbecue and order a beer and a big plate of meat? Who do you think I am? We learn she was once roommates with Sarah Silverman. She told Entrepreneur, "Sarah was absolutely the better roommate. I was a mess. She was so great. I was lucky that she allowed me to be there." She also discussed working with Gary Shandling, who had such a specific confidence in his humor and how he wanted the whole world to be. I remember reading the Larry Sanders script and going, I don't see the jokes. I'm not sure if I'm getting this. And then when we did the table read and people were reading in character, then it was like, oh, this is my favorite humor ever. It's so specific to the character that it doesn't really work until you hear them deliver it. It is indeed a slow news day. I'm going to pull Gossip Corner up here into the A block. You know who was up getting pizza in New Haven? That's right. You guessed correctly. Pete Davidson. He was at Sally's a Pizza. They shared the news in their social media. Apparently, Pete Davidson signed a box at Sally's writing, "You guys rock." Sally's humble bragged and wrote, "Even New Yorkers make the trip." A commenter was curious what Pete Davidson ordered. The pizzeria only said, "Let's just say he didn't leave hungry." Really? Nobody knows? Is it a secret? You can't just tell us, like, I don't know, Pete ordered 2 slices and a Coke? You can't just tell us? Also on Gossip Corner, race car driver Lewis Hamilton accused of giving a death stare to Jack Whitehall at the British Grand Prix. Apparently, Jack Whitehall accidentally bumped into race car driver Lewis Hamilton moments before the race while attempting to mingle with the drivers. As the story goes, Whitehall had been signaled to pass through by a team member, but then almost body-checked the 7-time world champion race car driver. Jack Whitehall told Sky Sports just now when I was being invited to the grid, "I nearly body-checked Sir Lewis Hamilton. I don't know whether I'm going to be invited back again, but it was a very cold stare." And staying on Gossip Corner from New Jersey Monthly, they are confirming that Adam Sandler is staying in Montclair, New Jersey, not all that far from my house, and I do teach a college class at Montclair State University. Perhaps I'll pop over there. It's a great town, great restaurant scene. There's great theaters there. Maybe I'll pop over and run into Adam Sandler and be like, "Hey, Adam, which of your movies do you think are good?" I'd be curious his answer to that. Like, if you got him, like, really honestly, like, he's got to know, like, Jack and Jill's not a good movie. I'll take $50 million and make Jack and Jill 2. I don't begrudge the man, but he's got to know it's not good, right? I felt bad for him. He went all in on Uncut Gems, and he didn't get an award, and just, we could have had Adam Sandler dramatic actor, and we let it slip. Anyway, he's in Montclair working on Untitled Roommates Project, which happens to star one of his daughters. New Jersey Monthly says neighbors have seen Adam Sandler spending time in the area. He's apparently shooting hoops in Rand Park. He was also spotted filming in nearby Livingston, New Jersey at Nana's Deli, which owners say will be closed through July 9th because of the production. Boy, that's like a 25-minute drive. Maybe I'll head over to Nana's Deli and just stand there all day. For the movie, Nana's has been repainted with a sign that says Beer and Bombs, established 1985, advertising deli favorites like matzo ball soup, chopped liver, Reuben's, pastrami, and knishes. Livingston locals say that Adam Sandler has been friendly to residents, taking selfies with fans who showed up to the set. Ooh, I'm so tempted to go. According to a cast notice, filming for the Netflix project goes through August 12th. A local resident who drove by the set said it's exciting to have a little slice of Hollywood in L-Town. Yeah. From the Pod News newsletter, which if you're into podcasting, you should subscribe to, James Cridlin reports for the first time in over a decade, Michael Palin performed Monty Python material on stage at his hometown to a packed audience for a podcast called Nobody Expects the Michael Palin Podcast, hosted by longtime fan Greg James. On the Nobody Expects the Michael Palin Podcast, its chief weapon, probably a surprise. I didn't know it existed. Palin did a world-exclusive reading of a deleted end scene from Monty Python's Life of Brian. That scene, titled The Martyrdom of St. Brian. In it, Michael Palin struggled to get through the scene without laughing at Brian's fingers full of naughtiness, which got laughter from the crowd. The Times of London went to go see Tim Minchin. He's doing a 3-night set at the Apollo in London. Tim was disrupted by some of the crowd shouting out details of a scientific law he just mentioned. Tim said, "You won't get this at an Oasis gig." He did 3 hours. The Times said his onstage chat is jokey, discursive, rather too rambling until he relaxes into it, and far more of the second half. He takes us through his 20s in Australia, writing songs that rarely resurfaced in the act he first brought to Britain in 2005. Hence the tour's title, Songs the World Will Never Hear. Spoilers of the 4-star out of 5 show, but though the first half is uneven, the second is almost wall-to-wall joy. He is, in the words of one of his songs, a rock and roll nerd. If you ever get an opportunity to see Tim Minchin, you should go. I caught him a million years ago at the Chicago Comedy Festival, which doesn't even exist anymore, and I was just blown away by how talented he was. Got to meet him a few times, hung out with him at Sirius. Cool dude, extremely talented dude. And that is your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the program, tell a friend about it. They might like it too. If you would like the program without commercials or feed drops or other stuff, there's a premium feed, $5 a month. You get this show, 5 Good News Stories, which I also host, and 25 plus others on the network, all commercial free. And that's it. And I'll see you tomorrow. Now stick around for this interview.
Our sister, I'm going to bring forward yours and give it to you now. And he said, "Oh, wow, that's great. Thank you. That's so generous of you, Carl. That's great." But his wife, my sister-in-law, went ballistic. She said, "This is too much money. This is wrong. I don't want anything to do with it," and stormed out of the room. And I thought, well, that's not what I expected. Oh, my God. So I realized from that this was not an easy thing to do. So I learned a lesson from that, and I knew that I had to do this authentically. I had to do it right. Otherwise, it was not going to work. So that happened. And then the third thing that happened was that I was looking at my financial statements, and I had more money there than I was really using. It was sitting there. I mean, it was growing, making profits and so forth, but it wasn't being used. I wasn't using it for me. I wasn't using it for things that I really cared about, not for my people. So I thought, well, if I have all this money now, why should I wait until I die? Why don't I bring it forward? And then, it was a long process for me to come around to that, but that's what finally started this. And I said, well, I'll do it now.
Let's back up just a bit. Tell us a little bit about your new book. What is The Happiness Experiment?
Well, this is a recording of the real events with real people who I decided that I would bring forward the inheritance, the money I had for them in my will, and made it a prequest. So it was a chunk of money that they were going to get while they were still young enough to enjoy it, and I was still alive to see it happening. So I saw what they were doing. So when I sat down with them, I talked about money and happiness and how one can be connected. I said, look, I'm going to bring this forward and give it to you. But what I want from you is a plan so that you use this money. So it's really a big benefit for you. I don't want this to overwhelm you. And they said, what kind of plan? I said, I want a happiness plan. And they said, a happiness plan? What's that? So nobody seems to have a happiness plan. But it's one of the most important plans you can get. And it doesn't have to be very complex. What is it that makes you happy? What values do you want to pursue? What goals and dreams do you have? And you can pursue them. And so I got them to write a happiness plan. And then when I saw the plan, I gave them all the money, all at one time. And so then they took it, and I watched them with their plan. I saw all their plans, what they did, and how they became happier. And so, that had to be written about. So, because I wanted other people to see what they did so that they too could do the same thing.
Which prequest is the most unique one you've come across?
Well, it was a very, very painful and sad story because 2 dear friends of mine had a beloved daughter, and she was hit head-on by a drunk driver and killed. She happened to be 8 months pregnant at the time, so that killed the granddaughter too, and also their daughter. They were totally, totally wiped out, devastated, and they died emotionally. They had decided that they could never be happy again, that it would be wrong to be happy. They didn't deserve to be happy because their darling daughter had been killed. Tremendously painful, awful, awful story. So they were grieving 6 years later. And I met with them, and I told them how much they had added to my life and how much I was so grateful to them and that I wanted to express the gratitude. And I put them in my will and they could accept that. And I said, but I want you to have it now. And they said, oh, no, we can't accept it. They turned it down. Well, we worked. I said, look, I'm leaving it open. So several months later, I think his wife persuaded him to do it, actually, so they said, okay, we'll do it because if we're going to wait until you die, why not do it now? And they did it. And it wasn't the money, interestingly enough. They said it was the coaching that made the big difference. That changed their mindset from being so negative. We'll never be happy again. We don't deserve to be happy. And the coach turned their thinking, their mindset around and said, look, you can be happy again. And they started to get the mindset of happy people. And now you cannot believe what these people, they're traveling all over the world. They're in Tahiti right now. They climbed Kilimanjaro. These people are loving life. And it was a major change. That is one of the most heartfelt, wonderful results of the and in a sense, she said, the wife said, this prequest saved my life because we were no longer living. We were dead. And this brought us back to life.
Yeah, I mean, dealing with grief, and many of us have, I have, when you're in those depths, it can be really difficult to find your way out of it. And, often it looks like there isn't a way out of it. And, sometimes you want a map, right? And it looks like this concept could be a good map for you if you're that. It sounds like it was for these folks. I always like to end interviews by asking, is there anything that I didn't ask that I should have?
How can my listeners benefit from this book? What should they do? What would be good for them? And so I'll answer that question. First off, think about happiness. Think about being happiness. You deserve to be happy, and you can be happy, but you have to make it as a choice. I'm going to increase my happiness. Just that, if you make that realistically, I want to, and I'm going to increase my happiness, that choice. And then talk to people about it. Talk to a husband or wife or a girlfriend or a friend, a therapist or coach. Talk to somebody about it and say, look, I made the decision that I want to be happier, and I'd like you to help me create a happiness plan. And then work on it. And it's not that hard, but it is challenging, but it's a wonderful exercise. And if they do it, I guarantee they will increase their happiness. I guarantee it.
Carl Barney is the author, and the book is called The Happiness Experiment, A Revolutionary Way to Increase Happiness. Carl, where can people find the book?
Wherever books are sold, and it's now available for pre-order from Amazon, and they can go to thehappinessexperiment.com, and they can pre-order it there, and I hope they will.
Carl, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. It's been fun.